Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream Sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in as we kick off another week. Glad to have you with me. Got a lot to cover today. It's a busy weekend. During the government shutdown, one of the most talked about programs was SNAP, the food program designed for low-income families. We've always suspected fraud after learning that 40 million plus Americans take advantage of the program. Well, Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins says everyone on the program is going to have to reapply in an attempt to weed out the fraudsters. We have that story for you. After 3 decades, the O.J. Simpson estate has taken a step towards paying Fred Goldman nearly $58 million. This after Goldman won a wrongful death judgment in a civil case against Simpson. We have the latest on what's next for the Goldman family as well. And according to U.S. Southern Command, U.S. forces carried out another lethal strike Saturday on a narcotics vessel operated by a designated terrorist organization in the Eastern Pacific, killing 3 suspected narco-terrorists in international waters. This marks 82 narco-terrorists killed since the operation began. And U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright made headlines this week when he told the American Nuclear Society that the Department of Energy's Loan Programs Office, the LPO, will now focus primarily on financing nuclear power plants. Could this be good news in the effort to get the 2 VC Summer nuclear reactors in South Carolina completed and operating? There's a lot to talk about. Let's get started.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Thanksgiving is just around the corner. The president announced over the weekend that evidently this year's turkey and dressing meal is going to cost you less than last year's under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
One other thing, a number came out today that was amazing. Walmart. I trust Walmart, Arkansas, great place, Arkansas, great company, Walmart. They announced today after many years, they do this every year for many years, that Thanksgiving for the United States of America under Donald Trump as president is 25% less for Thanksgiving meal with all the trimmings than it was under Sleepy Joe Biden's administration. So we talk about affordability. I think that's the best chart. That's better than a poll. That's better than anything I can think of. So Walmart, which everybody trusts, and I trust, and everybody trusts Walmart, they're not looking to do anything except give the numbers. And they have for many years. They talk about the cost of Thanksgiving and the cost of living through Thanksgiving and enjoying Thanksgiving. For Joe Biden, it was 25% more than it is for me at a later time. Our energy costs are way down. Our groceries are way down. Everything is way down. And the press doesn't report it. The press reports whatever the con people say. I call the Democrats con men and women. They make up numbers. But when you look at 25% reduction in costs for Thanksgiving between Biden and me, meaning this administration, that's a tremendous number. It's the biggest reduction in cost in the history of that chart or whatever it is they do. They do a synopsis of everything. They cover every element of Thanksgiving meals. 25% down. So I don't want to hear about the affordability because right now we're much less.
So that's good news. That turkey's going to cost less this year. Now, this discussion about Thanksgiving came up during a meeting about SNAP benefits and the fraud that's being uncovered. And this fraud is about to lead to one of the most sweeping shakeups to America's food assistance program in decades, and one that's going to hit millions of households squarely in the pocketbook. Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins announced that the Trump administration is preparing to make everyone receiving SNAP benefits, what most of us consider food stamps, reapply for assistance after a massive fraud investigation turned up nearly 186,000 cases of bogus payments across 29 Republican-led states. And if that number sounds bad, Rollins says just wait until we see the blue state data. Now, here's what we know. According to Secretary Rollins, federal investigators discovered tens of thousands of dead people, men, women, and even children still receiving monthly SNAP benefits. That's right, deceased recipients, in some cases for years. Add to that a string of arrests, 120 Americans recently charged in a multi-state bust that uncovered more than 17,000 illegal SNAP transactions, including everything from card cloning to selling benefits for cash. Rollins says for too long, this program was left to run on autopilot and corruption filled the gap. In her words, quote, these are the things that we're uncovering that for years no one ever dug into because the feds didn't have the systems in place to do it, but we do now. The president blamed the Biden administration.
You know, one other thing, our country has to remain very liquid because problems, catastrophes, wars, could be anything. We have to remain liquid. We can't give everything away based on a number. Here's an example. When I was president, the number that you're talking about was a tiny fraction of what it is now. Biden went totally crazy, gave it to anybody that would ask, gave it to people that were able-bodied, had no problem. Anybody that would ask, we get the number. And it's many times the number of people are on. This wasn't meant for that. It was meant for people that had real problems, in many cases people that were down and out, people that could be saved. It wasn't meant for people that could do whatever they want, the people that say, well, I don't think I'll work, I'll just, collect this money. Take a look at the number of what it was during my administration and what it was during the Biden administration. It went up many, many times my first term.
So what happens next? Well, according to Secretary Rollins, the Trump administration plans to require every single SNAP recipient in America to reapply for benefits, effectively rebuilding the system from scratch. That's 42 million Americans, all required to verify their eligibility. Rollins says this isn't about cutting off help to the truly needy. It's about making sure taxpayer dollars go only to those who genuinely need it. Her words, we're going to make sure that everyone taking a taxpayer-funded benefit through SNAP literally cannot survive without it, that they're vulnerable, that they meet the threshold. In other words, this is a back-to-basics overhaul, an attempt to clean house after years of neglect and abuse. Now, let's be clear. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, known as SNAP, is massive. It serves nearly 42 million Americans and costs taxpayers roughly $100 billion a year. Most states already require beneficiaries to recertify every 6 months to update income, family size, and employment information. But Ms. Rollins says that the system isn't working, calling the program corrupt and broken. And it's not hard to see why. Politically, SNAP has become one of the biggest flashpoints in Washington's ongoing debate over welfare reform and fiscal responsibility. And it really came to light during the shutdown. A lot of people were concerned about SNAP benefits being cut out or not being paid because of the shutdown, and it shed some new light on the program. Republicans have long argued that the program has ballooned far beyond its original intent, while Democrats say that it's a lifeline for millions of working families. Now, with fraud numbers this high, it's hard to ignore that both may be right. It's a lifeline, yes, but one that's leaking billions. Somebody needs to take a look at it, and I think we found that somebody through Secretary Rollins. This latest fraud crackdown follows a headline-grabbing case in Ohio where nearly a year-long investigation exposed 17,000 fraudulent transactions involving SNAP funds. This was just a small operation that found these fraud transactions. That bust came just as the nation was recovering from the government shutdown, a shutdown that temporarily froze assistance for millions of Americans. Remember, during those chaotic weeks, the Trump administration ordered states to issue partial payments only, citing limited contingency funds and the lack of congressional authorization. But now, with the shutdown officially over and the government funded again, Rollins says full SNAP payments will resume this week. Still, this latest announcement makes clear the White House intends to keep the pressure on the program and to weed out the fraud. This is about more than the bureaucratic reform. It's about reforming our entire government. Ms. Rollins, a longtime conservative policy leader and one of the architects behind Trump's opportunity agenda, has made welfare accountability a cornerstone of her approach. Her message echoes President Trump's own words. The federal government has a moral duty to help the truly vulnerable, not enable abuse, and that appears to be what has been happening for many, many years now. Let's be honest, those summer vacations and backyard barbecues added some extra pounds, right? But instead of feeling guilty or falling further behind, it's time to reset, drop the weight, and get back in control. The solution isn't a shot. Real lasting weight loss starts with your mind, not your mouth. At PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team help you uncover the real reasons behind your weight gain so that you can reprogram the way you think about food forever. PhD clients lose up to a third of their body weight without ever taking a drug. I know because I lost 33 pounds with PhD weight loss. Through real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science, your body can become a natural fat-burning machine. Why risk spending thousands on shots that strip away muscle, come with dangerous side effects, and leave most people regaining 60% of the weight within a year? With PhD, you'll activate your body's natural appetite control, burn fat safely, and stay in control. Even if you're already on Ozempic, PhD can help you transition off while still losing weight. Take the first step today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. Well, this is some news that I wasn't expecting. In fact, I'd just completely forgotten about the story altogether. But nearly 30 years now, after the infamous trial of the century, remember it? There's O.J. Simpson. There's finally a glimmer of justice for Fred Goldman, the father of murder victim Ron Goldman. The estate of O.J. Simpson has officially taken the first steps towards paying the Goldmans what they're owed, what they won in this civil suit. Remember, O.J. Simpson was set free in the criminal action. But the Goldman family sued O.J. and his estate civilly and won. Now it looks like they're going to receive the staggering $58 million, including decades of interest. So here's the story. After all these years, the man once accused of double murder, who managed to avoid prison for those killings, might finally be forced, in death, to make good on a judgment that's been hanging over his name since 1997. After O.J. Simpson was acquitted in criminal court for the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson, his wife, and Ron Goldman, the alleged boyfriend, a civil jury later found him liable for their wrongful deaths. The jury ordered him to pay $33.5 million in damages at the time. That number has ballooned with interest to nearly $58 million today. For decades, the Goldman family chased the money through courts, through book deals, property claims, all while O.J. Simpson lived a very public life of golf outings and media appearances, seemingly untouched by the financial judgment against him. But now with Simpson gone, he died in April of 2024 at the age of 76. His estate, it appears, can no longer dodge accountability. According to TMZ, Malcolm Laverne, the executor of Simpson's estate, has formally accepted Fred Goldman's creditor claim for $57,997,858.12. Every cent plus 30 years of accrued interest. Laverna says that he's working to pay what can be paid, which means selling off O.J.'s remaining possessions, memorabilia, personal items, maybe even that famous or infamous white Ford Bronco if it can be located. But here's a twist. Many of those possessions, Laverne says, have been stolen or lost over the years. He says he's working with lawyers to track them down. Now, this is a big reversal for Laverne. After Simpson's death, he vowed publicly not to pay the Goldmans a dime, saying he wanted to make sure not one red cent went their way. But reality and the law eventually caught up. The executor has now accepted the Goldman's claim, or that it's valid, along with two others, a tax bill from the IRS and a $636,000 claim from the state of California. Everything else, he says, has been rejected. So when it comes to who gets paid, the IRS and Fred Goldman are at the front of the line. For Fred Goldman, this is about far more than money. He said for years that what he wants is accountability, to make sure O.J. Simpson could never completely escape the consequences of what happened on June 12, 1994. That night, as you recall, his son was stabbed to death outside Nicole Brown Simpson's Brentwood home. O.J. was arrested, tried, and ultimately acquitted in criminal court. The glove didn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you have to acquit, remember? But the civil jury's verdict said what millions of Americans already believed, that he was responsible somehow. And now, 3 decades later, the estate finally acknowledging that debt is, in a small way, validation for that truth. The O.J. Simpson saga has loomed over American culture for 30 years. A mix of celebrity, race, sports, tragedy. We all remember the slow-speed chase, the media circus, the late-night jokes, and that unforgettable moment when the glove did not fit in the trial, right there in the court. But for the Goldman and Brown families, none of it was entertainment. It was a lifelong wound, one that never closed. Now, maybe, there's a little bit of closure. It's unlikely the estate will cover the full $58 million. There's simply just not enough left. But even the attempt to pay it or pay something is an admission that something was owed. For the first time, the legal system is doing what it couldn't do in 1995, hold O.J. Simpson financially accountable. And look, we have to admit the story is about more than one man or one cause. It's about the persistence of truth, how justice, even delayed, still matters. Fred Goldman never gave up fighting for his son. When most people would have walked away, he kept fighting, not for fame, not for fortune, but for his son's memory. And there's something deeply American about that, the belief that no matter how powerful someone seems, they can't outrun justice forever, even if it takes 30 years and a mountain of interest. And look, I see a new movie coming out of this, don't you? A renewed interest in the story. And look, you have to give Mr. Goldman credit for being persistent and for never giving up, because most people would have walked away. So we look back at this chapter. From the courtroom of 1995 to the headlines of 2025, one thing stands out. Tom has a way of catching up with everybody. And of course, look, O.J. is not here anymore. He left us. But still, Mr. Goldman will get the satisfaction of knowing that he worked for his son, that he fought for his son and his son's memory, and that's going to be acknowledged. Someone that O.J. Simpson in his death is going to be held accountable. O.J. Simpson died a free man, but his legacy is anything but clean. And Fred Goldman, after decades of heartbreak, may finally see the justice that he waited for since the night his son was taken from him. You know, as I look back over this, and again, I hadn't thought about this case in a long, long time, but it was consuming at the time. Can you remember the day of the chase? I mean, I can remember vividly. All the cable news networks broke in, and we were glued to the TV as this white Bronco, who we were told was being driven by O.J., led the L.A. police on that long chase. And, you know, deep down, because O.J. was a hero at the time, O.J. was looked upon by a lot of people, and deep down we were all hoping this can't be true. But it was. And now Fred Goldman finally gets some satisfaction and some closure. What a disappointing weekend for my Carolina Gamecocks. Did you see the game? What a game, huh? But there was also this bizarre side story concerning a police officer. Obviously, tensions were running a little hotter than usual Saturday in College Station, Texas, and not just on the scoreboard. During this wild SEC matchup between Texas A&M and South Carolina, a bizarre moment off the field is now drawing national attention. Here's the story. After South Carolina's Nick Harbor ran in for an 80-yard touchdown, the freshman wideout grabbed at his hamstring and headed toward the tunnel as if he was limping, as if he was injured, with a few teammates following him. Maybe nursing a cramp or just catching his breath. I don't know. But what happened next has folks talking, and not for the right reasons. As Harbor was making his way back toward the field, a Texas state trooper stepped in his path, made physical contact with him, and reportedly exchanged a few heated words. Now, evidently this Texas state trooper must have been a Texas A&M football fan. I don't know. At this time, at this particular point in the game, the Gamecocks were leading handily. Now, Harbor kept moving. Didn't escalate, but the whole exchange didn't sit right with folks watching, including LeBron James, who chimed in on X and called the officer's actions premeditated and corny. Well, the fallout was quick. The officer was relieved of his game day duties and sent home. Texas authorities made it clear this kind of distraction has no place on the sidelines, especially when it involves student athletes simply doing their job. Now, let's not forget the football, because that unfolded. What unfolded on the field was nothing short of historic. That touchdown by Harbor helped South Carolina build a commanding 30-3 lead heading into the halftime. But the third-ranked Aggies, led by a red-hot Marcel Reed, came roaring back in a huge jaw-dropping fashion. I mean, I think they really got upset with the Gamecocks that first half. Final score, 31-30, Texas A&M. They scored 28 unanswered in the second half. That's the biggest comeback in Texas A&M history, and snapped a staggering SEC stat as well. Teams trailing by 27 or more points were 0 for 286 since 2004. Well, make it 1 in 286 now. E.J. Smith punched in the go-ahead score. South Carolina had a shot late, but 2 sacks and a failed fourth down scramble, and just really they blew it. South Carolina had multiple opportunities, even as they had let the Aggies score time after time after time. They still had a chance at the end. They just didn't have that will to win, I guess. That makes it 5 straight losses for the Gamecocks, who fall 3-7 on the season. But back to the incident for a minute. Whether it was miscommunication or something else, it's a reminder that game day personnel have a job. Ensure safety, not stir things up. Players are out there giving it their all, and emotions are already high. We will keep an eye on whether there's further action and whether this guy is permanently relieved of his duties as a trooper, or if it was just a one-off game day situation. We'll see. President Trump ordered another strike over the weekend. The Pentagon confirmed this weekend that U.S. forces carried out a lethal strike on a narcotics vessel in the Eastern Pacific this time, killing 3 suspected narco-terrorists tied to designated terror organizations. Here's the story. It's the latest in a growing string of precision military operations, part of what's now being called Operation Southern Spear. It's a campaign to dismantle the drug-running networks that have funneled poison into our country for decades, and nobody else has stepped up to do anything about it. According to the U.S. Southern Command, Saturday's strike destroyed a vessel operating along a well-known trafficking route used by terrorists linked to drug cartels. Intelligence confirmed the ship was smuggling narcotics on behalf of a foreign terror group. The strike, described as a lethal kinetic operation, was carried out in international waters, like the others have been. It marks the 21st such strike since early September, and so far the campaign has killed 82 suspected narco-terrorists with only 3 survivors. These aren't one-off busts by the Coast Guard. This is a sustained, high-tech, coordinated military effort with one goal, and that's to hit these operations at the source before the drugs ever reach our U.S. shores, and to keep Americans safe. The mission, Operation Southern Star, was officially launched by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth last Thursday. Hegseth, who's become one of the most visible and aggressive members of President Trump's second-term national security team, laid it all out in blunt terms. Here's what he said. Quote, "This mission defends our homeland, removes narco-terrorists from our hemisphere, and secures our homeland from the drugs that are killing our people." It's pretty simple, isn't it? In other words, This isn't just about cocaine shipments. It's about defending America from what the administration sees as foreign-based criminal networks operating hand-in-hand with terror organizations. Since September, these strikes have hit dozens of vessels connected to groups like Venezuela's Tren de Aragua, one of the most violent transnational gangs in America, Latin America that is, and Colombia's Ejército Liberación, or ELN, a Marxist guerrilla group that has financed itself through drug trafficking for decades. The U.S. military has struck submersibles, high-speed go-fast boats, and even fishing trawlers rigged for smuggling. Some operations took place near Venezuela coast, others deep in the eastern Pacific. And make no mistake, these aren't random hits. Each one follows months of intelligence gathering and surveillance by the U.S. Navy and drone fleets under Southern Command and the Fourth Fleet. Now, what makes this operation remarkable is how it's being conducted. The Navy is now deploying autonomous robotic vessels, unmanned ships and drones, that can patrol for days without refueling. They're guided by satellite and AI-driven targeting systems capable of tracking and engaging small, fast-moving craft used by smugglers. It's a fusion of high-tech innovation and military precision, part of President Trump's broader push to modernize America's defense capabilities and to use technology to secure our borders far beyond our coastlines. And for the first time in decades, the U.S. military is taking the fight directly to the cartels instead of waiting for the drugs to show up in Miami or Houston or Los Angeles or one of these coastal areas, the Carolinas for that matter. There's no question these operations are saving American lives. Every one of those narcotic vessels destroyed represents tons of cocaine, tons of fentanyl, of heroin that won't end up on American streets. Drugs that, as Secretary Hexeth points out, are killing our people by the thousands every single year. It's also sending a strong message to regimes like Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro and to their new backers in Beijing that the U.S. government is reclaiming control of the Western Hemisphere, and you're not welcome. You enter at your own peril. Just as China moves deeper into South America with economic deals and infrastructure partnerships, Washington is reasserting its military and moral authority in that region. Now, some foreign leaders, especially in Colombia, have already criticized the strikes, claiming that they violate sovereignty. And let's be clear, when terrorist groups use the high seas to ship drugs that kills tens of thousands of Americans a year, that's not just Colombia's problem or Venezuela's problem. That's America's problem, and President Trump recognizes that. President Trump's administration isn't apologizing for defending our homeland. For too long, Washington politicians, Joe Biden, looked the other way, while cartels built billion-dollar empires on the backs of dead Americans, of sons and daughters of Americans. The White House is doing the opposite, treating narco-terrorism like the national security threat that it really is. In just over 2 months, Operation Southern Spear has taken out 21 drug smuggling vessels, 21, and the numbers are climbing. That's real progress. That's deterrence, because that is sending a message. I got to believe that it's harder and harder for these drug lords to find people to man these boats now, because word is getting out that Donald Trump is blowing you out of the water. It's a sign that the era of containment and half measures against cartels is over. Instead, the U.S. is taking the fight to the enemy in international waters, across known trafficking routes, and directly against the terror groups profiting off of the drug trade. And good for him, because again, Joe Biden and his open borders and his lack of wanting to deter these people or to keep these people from bringing their fentanyl, their cocaine, their heroin into the United States because he was afraid he was going to offend them. Finally, Donald Trump is saying, don't come to our borders. You are not welcome, and we will kill you trying to get here. Now, when you step back and look at what's happening here, again, it's a reminder of just the fundamentals. The United States has both a moral duty and a strategic necessity to defend its people from the threats that flow from lawless regimes and criminal networks that have been doing this for a long, long time. From the border crisis to the drug epidemic, these aren't just policy issues, they're matters of life and death, and Donald Trump recognizes that. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. We got some big energy news out of Washington that could have a major impact right here in the Palmetto State. President Trump's administration just announced a major shift in U.S. energy financing, one that could finally breathe new life into America's nuclear industry, and maybe, just maybe, reopen the conversation about finishing what was started nearly a decade ago at VC Summer down in Fairfield County, South Carolina. So here's a story. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright made headlines this week when he told the American Nuclear Society that the Department of Energy's Loan Programs Office, known as the LPO, will now focus primarily on financing nuclear power plants. In his words, by far the biggest use of those dollars will be for nuclear power plants to get those first plants built. Now, that's a major policy statement, and it's a return to a kind of energy optimism that we haven't seen since President Reagan. Now, for those who follow this closely, the LPO is the same federal office that helped finance the Vogtle reactors in Georgia, the only new commercial nuclear reactors to be built in the U.S. in more than 30 years. Those plants finally came online this past year after years of delays and billions in cost overruns, but they're working, and that's the key. There are currently no new commercial reactors being built anywhere in America. That's shocking when you think about it, because nuclear is one energy source that can deliver massive, reliable, zero-emission electricity 24/7. And with the explosion of AI technology and all the data centers popping up, something Secretary Wright specifically mentioned, our power demand is about to skyrocket. He said these energy-hungry technologies will bring in billions of dollars in equity capital from every credit-worthy provider, which the DOE will match 3-to-1, maybe even 4-to-1, with low-cost loans through the LPO program. Now, that means for every dollar of private investment, Washington will help supply 3 or 4 more in financing, making these projects not just possible, but very attractive and very profitable. And it's all part of President Trump's push to reclaim energy dominance, making America once again the world leader in both power production and technological innovation. Now, let's bring it closer to home, to the Palmetto State, my beloved South Carolina. This story hits a nerve here. Many of you may remember the VC Summer Nuclear Station in Fairfield County. I've talked about it many times over the years. It's a project that was supposed to bring 2 brand new reactors online, create thousands of jobs, and put South Carolina on the map as a nuclear energy powerhouse. Instead, it collapsed in 2017 after billions of dollars were spent and construction was about 2/3 complete. It was a massive financial failure that left ratepayers angry and the local economy gutted. And they're still paying for it, by the way. The ratepayers are still paying for two nuclear stations that have never produced a single megawatt of energy. Now, here's the question, and the question I'm hearing from folks in Columbia and Fairfield. And you may recall, we've talked about the fact that South Carolina has been looking at reopening bids for a company who will take those projects over and maybe breathe new life into them. And without the Trump administration expressing such an interest in nuclear, this would never have happened. But from what I'm being told, we received, or the state of South Carolina received, some very good proposals from companies wanting to take advantage of these two nuclear plants that could be online in a matter of years. So could Trump's new loan program make it possible to finish what was started? To resurrect these two boondoggles? Now, no one's talking about restarting tomorrow. Let's be realistic. But the door just cracked open a little bit wider to maybe offer some incentives to these companies who are looking at revitalizing these two nuclear reactors. When Secretary Wright says the administration is ready to unshackle the nuclear industry from decades of red tape, he's sending a clear signal that Washington is open for business again when it comes to nuclear power. And VC Summer, with its partially completed infrastructure, could be one of the most shovel-ready nuclear sites in America. It's 2/3 of the way finished. So why wouldn't a company not want to take advantage of low-interest loans from the Trump administration and take over two reactors that are almost completed? The groundwork's there. The transmission lines, the licensing, the site prep, all of it still exists. What's been missing is the political will and financial support, and it looks like that is coming around. And what you need to understand is this is more than just about South Carolina. President Trump has made energy independence and AI dominance the centerpiece of his second-term economic plan. Earlier this year, he signed 4 executive orders designed to accelerate nuclear technology, cutting regulations, streamlining the approval process, and encouraging private investment in small modular reactors and next-gen designs. One senior administration official said, "We're unshackling this industry from stifling regulations that have held it back for too long. This industry wants to grow, it wants to innovate, and there's a lot of capital available now as a result of President Trump's executive orders." That's the America First energy policy in action. Less bureaucracy, more innovation, and a commitment to building things right here at home in America. So what does this mean, again, for South Carolina? If the state leaders from the governor's mansion to Santee Cooper are willing to seize the opportunity, we could see a second chance at nuclear energy success. The new LPO financing could help attract private partners to restart VC Summer or invest in smaller modular reactors across the Palmetto State. Think about the ripple effects. Good-paying construction and engineering jobs to finish the reactors, long-term clean energy for our growing manufacturing base, and a major boost to Fairfield County's economy, an area that's been waiting for something like this since the project was scrapped a few years ago. And it's not just about power. It's about pride. It's about completing what we started. Finishing VC Summer would be a statement that South Carolina does not quit. Here's the bottom line, folks. President Trump, his plan makes nuclear power the centerpiece of America's energy future, and it could be one of the boldest steps towards energy independence that we have seen in literally decades. It's pro-growth, it's pro-jobs, and most importantly, it's pro-America. And if state leaders are smart and strategic, South Carolina could be a major player in this next chapter. We could be the centerpiece of it. Imagine turning the unfinished towers at VC Summer from a symbol of failure into a beacon of renewal. That's not just good energy policy. That's good American spirit. That's showing the world all over that we don't give up, we don't quit, and providing a couple reactors very quickly, whereas some of the other ones, it's going to take a while. It's going to take years for purchasing the land, making the plans, submitting the licensing, and getting approval. Even though President Trump is clearly eliminating some of the red tape that's been out there that's been preventing a lot of these nuclear sites to come online. But this is a clear signal that, hey, We're going to do this. We're going to get it done because it's what's best for our country and it's best for the people in those states. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.